Finally, I have made time to edit a onboard footage race video. There is plenty more to come with the Belgium stuff and a few other races that I've done, but I just haven't had time to film it yet. But we're on the start line of the Wessex Cyclocross League, and if you're wondering where all the riders are, I'm on the front row again, and I was confident going into this race that I was going to perform well. And off this start line, I just went for it. It was full gas, I gave it the berries, and just went full ponies and 100% commitment to get the whole shot, get into that first corner first. And your boy done it. Race over. That's it. That's the excitement done. I made it. But as soon as we hit this mud, it was straight off and running. It was muddy at Clanfield. I'm going to skip to Sarah's camera here because you don't want to see the ground as I'm running with the bike. But as soon as we get back up to this top section, we are back on and riding. And I apologise for any mud that gets on the screen. I tried to clean it, but there was just absolutely mud everywhere. And the best bit about this course is it was full on from start to finish. There were ruts, there was mud, and honestly, if you weren't busting your nuts going up a climb or running with your bike, blowing out your bum, or like gripping on for dear life going down a sketchy descent, it was just full on from start to finish, and that is why I love it. At the end of the day, the best cross racer is going to win this race. The fittest, most technical, and you can see here just how muddy it is. I'm like trying to get over, just trying to find any grass possible to put down the power and just keep pressing on. But yet again, you get to these climbs and it is just off and running. You do not want to see the floor though, so I'm going to skip to this next section in this rut and over these little whoop section here before you go up towards the next pits. And this was slippy. You can see again, I'm just trying to find any grass possible, and as I go over him, you can see I'm sliding to the right. You're just trying to get any grip possible. I was running 20 psi in the back, 18 in the front, which worked well for me. And then coming into this bottom corner here, it was slippy again, so I used, normally you'd try and go around the outside, I used the tactic of grabbing onto them posts and pulling yourself round. That is the one good thing about Clanfield. As it's a UCI race, the race before as well, they put in the proper stakes so you can grab onto them, pull yourself round. But it was just blowing the whole way. It was killer, absolutely killing the legs, killing the lungs. And you can see here straight away you're back off and running up towards pits. Sorry about the camera here, but lap one past pits, it was only like half a lap to pits, so I decided to skip pits this lap. But look how muddy it was. As soon as I went past, I was just like, I just don't have that power at low cadence. I really struggle when the cadence gets low to keep applying the power. So for me, it was just quicker to get off and run in this race rather than grinding out, busting your balls, and I wasn't really moving anywhere. But we're coming in to the first little section that you probably saw in the Clanfield video if you watched that, where it was the slippy off-camber descent. I had not been into this pre-race. I didn't do a practice lap, and I cannot believe I survived it. Honestly, the camera don't do it justice. I felt like I was doing about 30 miles an hour down there, but it looks so slow on camera. But when we come into this next section, it was back off and running. But I'm going to jump to Sarah's camera so you can see the gap I had on lap one here. So that is me going through in first place. Can you believe it? I'm in first place the first time in my life. And that is Andrew hunting me down in second place. But I went out hot. I went out hard. I just absolutely went for it. So you could just see him on the left there. As we come round this section, it was just back off and running. These climbs were savage, and where it was so muddy, it was just so hard to get up the climbs. And then even these like descents, you know, when you're still just grinding going downhill. But this was my favourite bit of the course, down into pits over this little bump. And there was a rut here. I didn't hit it very well on first lap. You can see I just missed it and popped out the other side. Shocking techers. But Yet again, we're off the bike and running. That is going to be the theme of this race. But this section here, the rutted section, was where I was putting the most time into Andrew. And we both had, so Andrew's in second place at the moment, I'm in first place. And you can see we both had sections of the course where we were better at. The technical elements I seemed to be doing well at down through that rutted section down here, and when we were running I was better. But when it was about putting down the power and grinding through that thick mud, he was above and beyond my level. He was so strong, and I'm pretty sure he's like quite a high level road racer, so he's just got that power that I just don't possess at the moment, that I'm working towards though. But down into this section, it was off and running again. I mean, look at the mud. It is horrendous. But I'm going to skip the running because you don't want to see that. And you can see the gap I had on lap 2. So if you look on the left here, you can see Andrew running and me going down this next section. So I had a pretty decent gap. And that's the good thing about cross. When you're going around these little sections, you can look over and you can either panic about the guy that's catching you. You can see here on the left, I think he shouts something at me here, like, you're flying. And you can see every time, you can either gauge whether you're making time or they're closing the gap on you. And I had a pretty decent gap. So this time we jump off the bike just here and I do pit this time. There's my legendary pit crew that saved the day for me. And I tried to get on and ride this section this time. I was just seeing if I was capable of it, but look at the mud. Honestly, I just didn't have the power to get through it. So at these points, you've just got to decide whether it's quicker to get off and run. And it was for me. Yet again, I've survived it. The downhill section, I'm probably as impressed as the wife was that I made it down there twice in a row. But I've jumped on a little bit here, and you can see as we go around this section where what I mentioned a minute ago, where you can gauge where your opponent is, just there on the left is when I noticed Andrew was shutting the gap down on me, and I had gone deep. I had burnt a few matches, and I'd blown my biscuit a little bit because I just went. I was feeling confident, so I just absolutely went for it from the gun. And yet again, I've survived the downhill sketchy section. I cannot believe it myself, but this is where I knew he was catching me. So you can just see me running up the steep climb here, and as I remount the bike, that is Andrew there on the right, and he has seriously shut the gap down on me. It's about 10 seconds, and someone once said to me, you don't want to be winning the race because as soon as you win it, there'll be no action, there'll be no one in front of you. So I took that advice and I thought, you know what, I better let Andrew pass me. That isn't why, it's because he's an animal, and he flew past me with 2 laps to go now, and I was just like, you've got to just jump on his wheel. Mentally, when he went past me, this hurt a lot, because after the first 2 laps, I had a 22-second gap. So, like, it hit me hard. I was like, I've gone too deep, I can't go with it. And you can see, as he went past me, he pressed on. We're on different lines here. I was just struggling through the mud. Maybe his line was better, maybe my line was better, I do not know. But I was just like, come on, George, give it the berries. Prove that you want this. This is your chance to win a Wessex League. This was the goal for the season. But I didn't panic at this point. Coming down here, I knew if I hit that rut well, I could get back on his wheel. So over the bump and into the rut, I hit it really nicely this time and popped out, and I was back on his wheel. And then down into this next corner, he rides it, I jump off, dismount, and I know now this is a chopper move. You can see I'm on the left, Andrew was on the right. I wanted to get into that rutted section first, so I shift over to the right. Absolute chopper, absolute Max Verstappen block that was right there. I came across, it's a chopper move, think what you want, but Rubbin's racing. I came across, made sure I got into this section before him, because this is where I was putting in the time on Andrew on this little technical downhill, and into the next run, I was able to gap him a little bit, and then he was getting me back on the power drag section. So you saw just there, I'd opened up a little bit of a gap there, and I was like, press on, do not let him get back on the wheel. and then I was back into pits for a fresh bike. But honestly, this was where the problem was for me. This is where I lost the race, not having the power at low cadence to get through this mud. I was grinding here, so I just decided to get off and run. And you can see the list cycling guy here, he was able to ride through it and stay ahead of me. And then Andrew just comes turboing past. At this point, I'm still running, and you'll see as I remount, I think it's about here, I have a shocking remount which allows him to gap me. I should have tried riding that section, but you can see here the gap is not huge. We've got like a lap and a half, and it was all about who was willing to suffer now and who had the most power. And to be honest, Andrew had the power that I didn't have through these sections. So as we come through the finish lap to take the bell lap, you can see he has fully dispatched me at this point. My legs are blown to bits, but I thought, don't panic, press on and see if you can get him back. As I go back past pits, I don't know if he had a problem or something, but I had managed to shut the gap down, and now I was like, embrace your inner Spencer Corder and go full Mo Farah to try and catch him on that run section back there. I got back on the ruts and I was like, you've got to just send it now. How much do you want it? Half a lap left, or just over half a lap. But coming down here, you can see him on the right. I'd done one big Mo Farah run up here, and before you knew it, I was back on his wheel, and I was like, come on, just make it hurt. This is where you've got to suffer. How much do you want it? On the last lap, Andrew decides not to pit. This is the gap he had. I jump on, he doesn't pit. I thought pitting and having the lighter bike on the run up would help massively. But it made no difference, because this is where the problem occurred. Yet again, I didn't have the power through this mud. And you can see this time I tried to ride it. I'm in the muddy section. I'm trying to get up onto the grass, and he's just pulling away from me. He's making it look effortless, and I am just powerless at this point, and this hurt my soul right here. I went over to the left here. I started trying to grab onto the rope, pull myself up, but this is a weakness that I can work on, and we're stepping closer to that top step and coming into the final descent. I was like, you've got to push the pace now. You've ridden this section well, you've got to push the pace, and what happens? He cocks it up. You can't park there, George. And look, I wasted that is 10 seconds wasted through getting that section wrong. And Andrew comes across the line, takes the win, and I come down 19 seconds behind. I'm absolutely gutted. That is my chance to complete my goal for the season of winning a Wessex League, but I just didn't quite have it at the end. I'm proud of the performance I put in. I went deep, I was confident, I gave it everything, but that last little bit at the end, I just didn't have it. But we're getting closer. Hopefully with 2 races left, I can put it all together and finish on that top step. So I hope you've enjoyed this little race footage video. This was a mega race. If you're close to Clanfield, I highly recommend that you race this Wessex League race next season. It is wicked. But I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.